Hi, everyone. Today brought the announcement of the 2025 Emmy nominations and also a very special announcement here at Prestige Junkie. My colleague Chris Rosen and I went live on Substack earlier today to talk about the nominations and reveal the existence of Prestige Junkie After Party, a new subscriber-only bonus edition to this podcast in which you get videos of this podcast, special bonus podcast episodes, so much more. So we're going to talk about it in the audio you're about to hear, but you can go to prestigejunkie.afterparty.substack.com to subscribe and learn more. And Chris, what people are going to hear is us reacting live to the Emmy nominations through many technical hiccups, all of them my fault, really. You were a hero throughout all of this. So people will hear all about it, but there's a couple things that we've learned, in the 10 minutes since we recorded this and we're talking now about these Emmy nominations. Big day for HBO, huh?
HBO amazingly had 142 Emmy nominations. That's Warner Brothers Discovery in total, but obviously through HBO and HBO Max, led by The Penguin, I think, which had 24, right? Like we said, White Lotus 23, and The Last of Us had 16, I believe, just off the top of my head.
Last of Us had 17.
17,
looking at their email
my
right
bad.
now.
My bad.
It was an off-the-cuff kind of day here on Prestige Junkie.
Netflix had 121. Now, I'm sure Netflix would argue that it had 121 just on Netflix and all these other HBO ones
they
put together.
They want to be very clear about that.
So that's great for Netflix. 121 nominations is a ton. But that's the most ever for HBO. Its previous high was 137 in 2019. And last year it was only 91 behind Netflix and FX. So
exciting day for a lot of people. You're going to hear us kind of talk about some snubs, some surprises, kind of some nominations that really made us rethink the rules for how you get an Emmy nomination. I think there's some assumed wisdom that we're going to have to reconsider after this year, but we decided good nominees, right?
Yeah, pretty great. I mean, not a lot of some surprises, obviously, as we'll get into. Really good nominees. I think a lot of the great shows that I enjoyed were nominated. So that's great.
So now let's let everybody hear that Substack conversation we had earlier today about the nominations. And then after that, you'll hear my quick conversation with Erin Doherty, nominated for Best Supporting Actress in a limited series for Adolescence. That would be the big standout third episode between her and Owen Cooper. It's a really fun conversation. She was fun to talk to. Clearly over the moon. Adolescence is really going to be the fun table at the Emmys. So you'll hear that after me and Chris. And one last thing, the first 10 minutes you're going to hear of me and Chris is going to be a little rough audio-wise. As you will hear, we were having some technical challenges, but if you stick with it, it will get better, I promise. I appreciate you bearing with us. If you're joining us finally for the first time, if you're hearing this on the podcast, Chris and I had a failure of a live stream on Substack Live where Chris monologued by himself. So here we are talking about all of this for the first time. And about the Emmy nominations, which, I mean, do we want to do any top highlights before we jump into it? Severance got the most nominations with 27.
Severance got the most nominations with 27. Let's see.
And I never would have guessed the second most nominated show. Are you looking at the same list I am? The Penguin.
Yes.
The Penguin. I never did not see that coming whatsoever. Although I guess it had a lot of technical stuff going for it. Yeah. Any other top level takeaways before we get into some of these categories that get announced live on the show?
Yeah, I mean, Severance with 27 is a crazy amount. The record, I think, is 33, right, for Game of Thrones. So, that's an incredible amount of nominations and I think it pretty much doubled the nomination. It had 14 nominations in season 1. So clearly, and we'll find out. I'm going to scroll down. We'll see the supporting. I'm sure I got a lot of acting nominations as well. White Lotus, 23, great. Last of Us with only 16 nominations. That's a big drop from season 1.
Yeah,
we had over 20 and over 14 nominations, and I know it'll make you happy.
Oh, very happy. Although Diego Luna getting snubbed, I was bummed to see that. It's always hard for me to see as they're announcing the list of people who actually made it in or who I was expecting. But Diego Luna stuck out to me right there.
A lot of these people, I feel like they got crunched by the numbers, right? We saw Selena Gomez got snubbed, Diego Luna got snubbed, Steve Martin got snubbed, and there were only 5 for the lead actors. There's only 5 slots. If there was 6, you'll argue these people would have probably gotten in. Comedy-wise, the studio led with 23 nominations, not a surprise based on its technical proficiency and its cast, and we'll see how it did there. Acts with 14, which I think is actually less than it got for season 3.
Yeah, I'm looking at the guest comedy nominees, which is where Hacks would often show up. 5 people nominated for playing themselves on the studio.
Wow.
In the guest actor in a comedy series category.
Wow.
Total. John Bernthal is the one person. Actually, I'm sorry. Bryan Cranston does not play himself on the studio. And he's one of those nominees. But Dave Franco, Ron Howard, Anthony Mackie, who actually I think was really underrated in that Ron Howard episode.
He was great.
And Martin Scorsese. So
Sure.
strong group right there. Yeah, I wonder if that's the studio kind of eating Hax's lunch a little bit right there.
I mean, definitely a little bit. And then and The Bear only 13 nominations for its divisive season 3 after it had 23 nominations, a record for season 2. So we expected that to drop, and then it did. So you want to I don't know. I'm looking at these comedy, the supporting actress and actor categories. I was
okay. All right. So, well, the supporting actor in a comedy was kind of my favorite thing to think about not knowing what was going to happen.
You talked about this in the newsletter,
and we knew there were going to be surprises. But did you ever see Jeff Hiller for Somebody Somewhere being what that surprise was going to be? What a thrill!
Absolute thrill. Somebody Somewhere is a show that had a small but passionate fan base, right? People loved it. Very great. And again, another numbers crunch thing where Bridget Everett, not nominated in lead actress, but maybe based on this, maybe she would have been actually the 6th ahead of Selena Gomez, because Jeff Hiller getting in is a big shock, right?
Yeah.
Shrinking gets Michael Urie and Harrison Ford. So Harrison Ford now Emmy nominee.
See Michael Urie in there, and Harrison Ford weirdly snubbed. Coleman Domingo for Your Beloved: The Four Seasons.
So really we talked about this, how he was so famous, he would just get in because he's Coleman Domingo, and perhaps that's true because there we go.
I'm trying to think of who I predicted in that because I definitely did not predict Jeff Hiller, so I'm trying to remember who I predicted would be in there instead. But that's a great one.
I had Tyler James Williams for Abbott, who was snubbed here, and we talked about
Paul
that.
Downs for Hacks.
And Paul Downs also snubbed.
Guarantee.
So shocking that Paul Downs missed, especially because I thought he was really funny in season 4 of Hacks.
Absolutely.
And no Tyler James Williams, who had been getting in previously for Abbott. So it shows that maybe they're moving off Abbott fully. Overall, it only had...
But also, Janelle James and Cheryl Lee Ralph both got in for Abbott in supporting actress, which I remember I wasn't so sure that they would have the strength to keep going with that. So, I mean, but they're also, kind of icons at this point. So maybe that's not a huge surprise.
Supporting actress in a comedy was Liza Clone-Zayas, who won for The Bear last year back. Hannah Einbinder for Hacks. Catherine Hahn for The Studio, which was great. Catherine Hahn is so funny in The Studio. Janelle James, Catherine O'Hara, who is a double nominee because she's obviously nominated for Last of Us, which you talked about as a possibility. Cheryl Lee Ralph for Abbott, and Jessica Williams for Shrinking, her second nomination for the show. I thought they were going to... I love Jessica Williams. I was I feel bad having gone off of her. So if you see this, I apologize for not predicting you, but I was I don't know.
I feel like Shrinking was going to have a good run here. And we can talk in general about Apple, having a pretty good day, getting in, strong performance with Slow Horses, strong for The Studio, Shrinking really came back up, disclaimer, like I said earlier. So, they're watching these Apple shows, it seems.
They are. And I think that bodes well, especially for shows that didn't show up here, but for season 2, like Your Friends and Neighbors, which I love. But I was again, I think if there was more room for it, season 2, it could maybe come back in John Hamm.
Did Your Friends and Neighbors get fully snubbed?
I didn't look through the full list yet, but I would assume yes. It's
nominated
over the line
for main title theme music.
Great.
And that's it. Wow.
I'm not surprised, but
I guess John Hamm was really kind of their big play there. So maybe not.
And again, with the lesser spots, it just really hurts.
Oh, should we do supporting actor and actress in drama? Since
because these are great.
Just a bloodbath. I mean, it's if you're not on The White Lotus, Severance, The Pit, or Paradise, good luck to you, because that is all they had room for in the drama categories this year.
So the Paradise nominations were a shock, really, because you had talked about this. Julianne Nicholson now a double nominee because she's obviously nominee for Hacks.
The fact that Sarah Polley didn't get the guest actress nomination for The Studio, which is an outrage. It's made up for with Julianne Nicholson getting it for Hacks as well as for Paradise. She's so good on both of those shows.
And so clearly what this says to me is that the Paradise nomination for drama series, which was maybe in doubt as against a bigger show like Squid Game, which was obviously so popular and had the visibility, I feel like the actors really supported Paradise, right? Because you got 3 acting nominations for Paradise, which to me means the actors really liked it. So that's it.
Well, and Paradise produced in LA, much like The Pit. So it had that going for us, unlike The White Lotus and Severance.
Yes.
So this Zach Cherry getting a Severance nomination finally, wonderful to see.
We talked about that, I feel when we did our predictions, that he felt like someone who could pop, because if they love Severance, they're going to, a lot of times with Emmy voters, they watch one show, then they just vote down the line. So Zach Cherry's the Nicholas Braun of Severance, basically, right? And he just gets in.
Although I feel like we thought that might happen for The White Lotus, but The White Lotus comes in with 3 for Walton Goggins, Jason Isaacs, and Sam Rockwell, who are the 3 who I would have predicted to be in there. I guess that's Patrick Schwarzenegger and Sam Nivola missing out are the main ones who we might have.
Patrick Schwarzenegger would have probably gotten in, I guess, if not for James Marsden, because everybody else feels pretty set there. And Tremel Tillman and John Turturro. So now I'll be curious to see who actually ends up Severance is so, with 27 nominations, it's clearly like the show, right, for this group.
Yeah.
And so does that mean like Trammell Tillman could win this category over what we had assumed was like Walton Goggins, right? Because
and I had been really high on The Pitt as being like the show and like being, something people were maybe sleeping on. And I think it did very well here. But Catherine Lanasa being the only supporting nominee, it's just her and Noah Wiley who made it in for The Pitt for acting, like, is a little surprising to me.
It's a little surprising, but I would argue great news for Catherine Lanasa, because here you have Amy Lou Wood, Natasha Rothwell got in for White Lotus again, Parker Posey, and Carrie Coon. Again, the expectation is Carrie Coon is going to win, but all four of those White Lotus people could kind of cancel themselves out. Yeah. And you have Patricia Arquette for Severance, Julianne Nicholson for Paradise, Catherine Lanasa for The Pit. What if Catherine Lanasa just wins, right?
That would be incredible. Catherine Lanasa, I talked to her for the Prestige Junkie newsletter a little while ago. Absolutely wonderful. Classic, like, working actor, getting her big break, like, into her 50s. Mm-hmm. It's like Liza Colin-Theus, a really similar story as someone who's like, maybe you made this comparison already. No, I mean, these two supporting categories had been like the big bloodbath that we were all kind of like anticipating. So, I mean, a little surprising, but not so much that it doesn't make sense, right?
It's funny, like the White Lotus, no Patrick Schwarzenegger, no Leslie Bibb, which I was kind of disappointed because I really thought she was great. And she really campaigned and it felt like people enjoyed her, but I think she just got like
There's Natasha Rothwell. People on the White Lotus.
Yeah, I mean, Natasha Rothwell getting in, like, that makes sense, obviously, because she was a nominee previously. And so there you go. And the surprise there is Julianne Nicholson, but clearly, like we said, like, they watch Paradise and Hulu did an amazing job hammering the ground for Paradise, I feel like. So, yeah. And then we had limited series supporting actors. Oh no, Katey went dark again, but I'm hoping she's still there. She's still there. Are you still there, Katey?
Well, and I'm realizing that I have not been recording myself properly on.
I can vamp if you want.
This, it's good. This podcast episode is going to be a work in progress, an experiment. It's a preview of our future of Prestige Junkie After Party.
Why don't we talk about that again, Katey?
Because we were fritzing out, but we had a great announcement, a Prestige Junkie After Party.
For those of you just joining us, we're launching Prestige Junkie After Party.substack.com. You can go there and subscribe now. It's going to be a subscriber-only bonus to this very podcast and the newsletter that you are used to reading. It's going to come out. We're going to have video episodes of this podcast itself, bonus episodes on Fridays, including Substack Lives, bonus podcast episodes, Oscar history deep dives, weird predictions. We might go item by item through the Telluride lineup. There's so much stuff that we're going to do. So it's going to be $5 a month, $50 a year. If you are one of the first 10 subscribers, you get an Ankler hat, which I enjoy my Ankler hat. I'm assuming you have yours as well.
I'm hoping I get one in the mail. I don't have one yet.
You need to get to LA so you can get yourself an Ankler hat. I'm realizing that we may not have the audio from what we just talked about in the regular podcast episode, so apologize to anybody who's hearing that. But do you want to talk about the supporting limited categories, which I was realizing I had so much emotionally writing on Jenny Slate getting that supporting nomination, and she got it. Thank goodness, in the supporting actress in a limited series category.
Well, this was chaos a little bit as well for supporting actors. Erin Doherty gets in. This one is actually fine. The actor one was more chaotic, I would say.
Yes.
But so Erin Doherty gets in for Adolescence, Ruth Negga for Presumed Innocent, which was a surprise, but I'll get to more Presumed Innocent later.
I just loved Presumed Innocent.
I am thrilled by this because I really loved it. It was so much fun. It was one of my favorite shows, and it felt like it was just out of sight, out of mind, but no, great job. Deidre O'Connell for The Penguin, Chloe Sevigny for Monsters, Jenny Slate for Dying for Sex, and Christine Trimarco for Adolescence.
Yeah. I mean, that is basically all of the nominees you could expect from Adolescence. I saw Ashley Walters got in for supporting actor alongside Owen Cooper, who, again, is just going to mop the floor with everybody. When they were announcing the lead actress in Limited, which we talked a little bit about earlier, I got kind of nervous because Michelle Williams is at the end of the alphabet, and I, saw enough surprises in there. But she and Jenny Slate and Rob Delaney all made it in for that show, which I loved so much, and I feel like got kind of overlooked in the, adolescence mania of the spring in some way.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And then for actor and supporting actor, this is where I was just like, hell yeah. So Javier Bardem gets in. Like you said, Owen Cooper probably going to win. Bill Camp for Presumed Innocent. Just a delight. He
Classic.
was so fantastic on Presumed Innocent.
Did he win an Emmy for that show with Riz Ahmed a while ago? The, you know what I'm talking about? Yeah. I feel like, no, he was not. It looks like he was nominated.
He was nominated for something else recently. Let me see.
According to IMDb, he has won. I'm glad that Bill Camp has been our first IMDb deep dive that we've done while talking about all of this.
No, he was nominated for Night Of. He was.
Okay.
Bill
All right.
Camp.
Yeah. Anyway, good to see Bill Camp back at it.
And then Rob Delaney for Dying for Sex, which I know you were thrilled by, and Peter Sarsgaard, which we talked about for Presumed Innocent, which is great. He's so smarmy on that show. Just a wonderful performance. And Ashley Walters for Adolescence. So again, this is great. I just love this. But this was a weird year for limited series. There weren't a lot of them. And I do think like this ended up being like, what did I watch as an Emmy voter? And then just vote for that. So they watched Presumed Innocent. It's a show they remembered. And then they just voted for it in a bunch of places.
Although it also makes me wonder if they watched Presumed Innocent and then they're like, oh, what other limited series existed? What else did Apple put on? Which is how Cate Blanchett gets in for Disclaimer, which did it get nominated for series? I think she's that show's only nomination. Yes. And then also Brian Tyree Henry for Dope Thief, which I talked about last week. And I had so much hope for. Wagner Moura, sorry, but you'll probably get an Oscar nomination. So I'm not too worried about you. I was just delighted to see Brian Tyree Henry get in there.
He's great. And he was campaigning. You know, I do think that matters. Like, it does matter to be like, I'm here. I want an Emmy nomination, and that helps. Disclaimer got 2 nominations. It had Cate Blanchett and cinematography for a limited series.
Yeah, the PDF where you can just search by show title is very, very helpful.
Yeah, and Dope Thief just has the one. So Brian Tyree Henry is basically this year's Lily Gladstone, who was nominated
Or he's
here
this year's Brian Tyree Henry in Causeway, as in showing up
Causeway, or Robert Downey Jr. for a show that they probably didn't really watch, but they like the actor.
They like the actor, and
in.
he got out there for it, as you said. Which I'm wondering, like, so I just am searching through my PDF to bounce back lead actors in a comedy series. Like, was that the secret to Uzo Aduba getting in there for The Residents, a show that has been canceled? Netflix is not renewing it, even though I thought it was really good. Let's see, is she the only nominee for The Residents? She may very well be. Oh no, it got 4 nominations. It got her and main title theme music, production design. It rebuilt the White House is really an incredible production design, and special visual effects in a single episode, which I did not know was a category. So anyway, how do you explain Uzo Aduba in that, I think, pretty surprising nomination?
Definitely surprising, but again, she's a 3-time Emmy winner. The Emmys love her, and that's kind of how she gets in. I feel a lot of these are like that to me, where it's like, oh, this is a person they're familiar with, and, you know, they're going to go to bat for that person, basically.
Yeah. Although, you know, I would have said the same thing about Allison Janney and The Diplomat, and did.
Allison Janney missed supporting actress in a drama series. She was in 2 episodes of The Diplomat. There was talk of whether she could go guest then or supporting actress. So it was up to her, basically. And when supporting actress, everyone expected her to get in. And then she snubbed.
And because presumably she'll be on more of next season, because spoiler for The Diplomat is that she is the president of the United States as of the next season. So I guess, she's only in 2 episodes. So like maybe next season is her opportunity.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, I got to say, like, I was worried going into these, not worried, because how could you worry about this in real life? But I was concerned that they were going to nominate someone like Meryl Streep, no disrespect to Meryl Streep, for Only Murders, who was in like 2 episodes, and get nominated for supporting actress in a comedy, because she would have to run there because of these arcane Emmys rules that I won't go into deeply right now.
Do you think they're arcane, or do you think they're just preventing Claire Foy from winning an Emmy for being in 2 minutes of
I mean, I think they did it for that, but I don't think it's like perfect. I think they did it for that reason, but I don't think it's perfect choice.
I'm looking in the comments. I know we're just really bouncing around all over the place, but I don't know how else to do it. But Carol asked about Poker Face Anywhere and whether it was eligible, which is a tricky thing because it aired in a weird way. But some of its episodes were eligible. And Cynthia Erivo did get a nomination for a truly incredible performance in the first episode of the season, which I thought was terrific. Did we go through the guest actress comedy? I know we talked about the actors playing themselves, but
actually, and I have so many pages open now. I've lost it, Katie. Do you have it there?
Let me just, I have it through here. So we've got Olivia Colman and Jamie Lee Curtis back for The Bear, which fine.
Olivia Colman's great in The Bear.
But she's also like barely in it, right? Like, she's in
the finale, and she's like just a warm presence. And Jamie Lee Curtis,
love Olivia Colman, and so Cynthia Erivo, Robbie Hoffman got nominated for Hacks. So good on Hacks as Randy, the oddball assistant. It's wild seeing that like Meg Stalter and Paul Downs don't get in, but Robbie Hoffman does. That's weird Emmy categories for you. Zoe Kravitz as herself. Terrific. And Julianne Nicholson as Stan's mom for Hacks. So, we were talking about Hacks and whether or not its nominations total was maybe showing it weakening, but that's 2 strong nominations for Hacks right there.
Those are great nominations, and making it all the more confounding that like Paul Downs doesn't get in. I guess, I mean, I don't know.
It's just
I guess
a numbers game, right? It's just there's
it
not
is
enough
a little
space.
bit of a numbers game, but I just feel like he was so great, and it's disappointing that he didn't get in. Like we talked about Meg Stalter, I feel like that character is a little more polarizing than
we talked about that.
So like that, Robbie Hoffman getting in is great. They're so funny, and Julianne Nicholson is great. That category then missed people like Melissa McCarthy for Only Murders. Mm-hmm. So that was guest actress, right? And guest actor in a comedy you already mentioned was like the studio just times 4 or 5. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then John Bernthal for The Bear.
Yeah, I mean, that feels about right? Oh, we didn't look at the guest actress in a drama series or guest actor in drama series.
Well, I know you're going to be excited for one of these, or maybe 2.
Well, hang on. I'm on actress right now, and I'm seeing that Gwendolyn Christie and Merritt Weaver made it in for Severance, which I am delighted by. Mm-hmm. I don't have strong opinions on The Last of Us or The Handmaid's Tale, but I do feel like we said, watch out for The Handmaid's Tale. That show gets nominations, and here's Cherry Jones nominated for The Handmaid's Tale. I do think we thought Elizabeth Moss was coming in for drama actress, and that did not happen.
I mean, Sharon Horgan gets in for drama actress. Having looked at this and like talked about this, I have not talked to a single person on earth who even suggested Sharon Horgan as a dark horse contender. And yet there she was for Bad Sisters, a show that is liked, but I mean, again, kind of like lost in the thing. But I think Sharon was a past nominee, obviously, for Bad Sisters. And that just might be a case of like, just again, like defaulting to what they know, no disrespect to Melanie Linsky, I guess, and Elizabeth Moss, both of whom have been nominees before. So I don't know how Sharon Horgan got in, but I didn't hear one person talk about her. Right, that was a pretty big surprise. If you predicted Sharon Horgan, good for you.
Yeah. Okay. So guest actor on drama series was what you were teasing, that of all the other actors on Andor who could be nominated, Forrest Whitaker as Saw Gerrera is not who I would have picked. No offense to Forrest Whitaker, but Stellan Skarsgård is sitting right there. But I am, Andor popping up where it does, including in like best drama series. Let's see, how many nominations total did Andor get? Oh yeah, it got a ton of nominations. In writing, in visual effects and sound, a lot of technical stuff. So clearly they're watching this show. I don't know why that means I can't nominate Diego Luna, but Alan Tudyk got nominated for being K2SO, which is great in voice actor. Mm-hmm. So yeah. Justice for Andor forever. It deserves more. But, we got Nicholas Britell and Tony Gilroy are sharing a nomination for the We Are the Gore. Oh, I see Andy is commenting as well that they got that nomination. Wonderful. What a great song.
Absolutely great.
Yeah, let's see. I got to open up a different spreadsheet to see what the nomination total is for Andor.
Well, the other thing in guest actor that I was like kind of blown away by is Giancarlo Esposito gets in for The Boys.
I know.
Again, Giancarlo Esposito, you talked about this, I think, in your column too.
Yeah,
for the
I thought he might get in
but
there.
You were right on the right track, though, because, like, again, a guy they are familiar with and love and have nominated several times. And then it's like he got nominated, obviously, for Mandalorian, too, where it was just like they're just checking his name out. You know what I mean? It's just like they love Giancarlo Esposito.
They see that he's on there. They're like, is Giancarlo Esposito on there somewhere this year? Done. Don't. Andor got 14 nominations, which is the same amount as Hacks and more than Adolescence or The Bear or The Pit. So. Okay, all right. I'll stand down on Andor. Deserved more, but it still did pretty well.
Good for you. I think that's great.
Good for me.
I just want to look at a couple of other ones for these were directing in a comedy series and in drama series. I was just looking at.
All right, I'm looking these up. Iowa DeBerry, congratulations, nominated for directing The Bear.
So amazingly, the only directing nomination for The Bear. That's fantastic. Like, because Chris Storer obviously submits for, I would imagine he submitted the finale. And Io submitted for Napkins, which is the big Liza Clone Zayas episode, which we knew Liza Clone Zayas would get in. Yeah. And John Bernthal would get in probably for that episode. And then Io is nominated for directing, which is great.
Yeah.
Lucian Yellow.
No multiple episodes. I don't know. I don't remember which shows might have submitted multiple. I guess The Bear did. I don't know if Hacks or the studio did, but just one show for each in each spot there.
I think The Bear, Hacks definitely just submitted one, and I think the studio also did just the one, because that's a strategy that we kind of talked about, I think, when we were doing this a while back. But, like, you don't want to oversubmit because then you maybe miss. Yeah. So Io Deborah gets in for The Bear, Lucy Allen Yellow for Hacks, which is great. Mm-hmm. James Burrows for Mid-Century Modern. Again, another person you clocked that we would get in.
Well, it's because of this weird rule about the directing category. There has to be a multi-camera comedy in that lineup, which is a very smart way for these like veteran TV directors to make sure they don't get totally boxed out by prestige TV. So, the woman who's been nominated for the last couple of years for the Miss Pat show, that show wasn't eligible this year. So James Burrows, TV legend, makes perfect sense.
Nathan Fielder, a nominee. Congratulations to the Nathan Fielder stands.
I did kind of. I think I read about this too, that it felt like the rehearsal was kind of cresting in some way, and I think a actor in a comedy series nomination for Nathan Fielder was probably a bit of a stretch. But that's a great pick for that show.
So great. And then Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg for the studio for the Warner episode,
Who
which
are
is
just
great.
Gonna win, right?
It seems like, yeah. I mean, based on these nominations, I would say the studio is the favorite in comedy series to win, and Severance could be is the favorite in drama series, and it depends. Can Apple win both of those categories, assuming Adolescence will win again for Netflix, which would be its third consecutive limited series win after Baby Reindeer and Beef.
Yeah.
But I could see The Pitt again. The Pitt did not do anything here to make me think that it's not also a strong contender. It got for drama series directing. You have Andor, like you mentioned, for Janice Metz, Amanda Marsalis, and John Wells, both for The Pitt. For the 6 p.m. and 7 a.m. hours.
Yeah,
Jessica
I guess 7 a.m.
Gagne,
is the pilot, right? Yeah,
I think, yes. Yeah. And then 6 p.m. I think is the mass shooting. That's one of the mass shooting.
Yeah. Amanda Marsalis, who I talked to a couple times, she was part of a big panel we did at DGA, is great. She's a producer on the show. She's a big part of it. So those two make sense as the ones to single out from The Pitt.
Definitely. Jessica Gagne for Severance directed the Chikai Bardo episode, which is the Dick and Lockman episode. She did not get nominated, which I was kind of like, maybe she could have gotten in.
Yeah.
But that episode was really beloved. So
yeah, and that's the first thing she's ever directed. She's been the DP for the series from the very beginning. So, and I also talked to her. She's really fascinating. And yeah, she and Ben Stiller like kind of are like the two-headed like creative team behind this. Cold Harbor is not the episode I would single out from the season. So like, I wonder if that means that Jessica Lee Gagne can win this. But I don't know, Ben Stiller is such a name attached with that show.
And then Slow Horses, Adam Randall, and then Mike White for The White Lotus. I mean, what if the Pitt and Severance split and Mike White just wins again?
That would be wild. Because Mike White has won this category at least once.
I think he's definitely won it when it was limited series. He probably didn't win it for season 2.
I don't
because
remember.
It was
because Shogun won everything?
Succession. He was up against Succession, I think.
Sure. So. Okay.
And then let me see what else that was interesting.
So, I mean, directing for limited series, Adolescence just has one episode in there. It doesn't even list an episode title, which it does for all the other ones. So I don't really know how that works.
So for limited series, if one person directed all for everything, it's just one. And then if it's an individual episode. So like The Penguin has 2 different directors for 2 different episodes. Right.
And Leslie Linka Glotter is credited for all of Zero Day because she directed all those episodes.
So she got in, obviously,
and Siren's there again.
Great. And then I was looking at writing. So Abbott Elementary gets in for Quentin Brunson episode. The penultimate episode for Hacks gets in, Slippery Slope, which was their best one. Nathan Fielder again for writing for The Rehearsal, which must have really, really just missed series. Same with Somebody Somewhere, also there, and Seth Rogen for the studio.
And then What We Do with the Shadows. I just
feel Know the Bear in writing. That's crazy.
That is crazy. I feel like we really have to readjust our priors about like what it takes to get an Emmy nomination in your last season. Because I feel like we've been saying with Somebody Somewhere this whole time, like it's no Schitt's Creek. It's not growing the way Succession did. Like it would be so nice if it got recognized. But like it popping in here, like I don't know if that's the writing category being smaller, but then like Jeff Hiller getting it, I don't know how to account for it. Like it's really exciting, but it does defeat a lot of my preconceived notions about how these categories work.
I think it matters, like, I'm contradicting a lot of things that I've said previously, but I do think it matters if the show is like, the show has to, like, a lot of times they're lazy, the voters, and like they'll name check somebody like we talked about, and like, that's just the way it is. But if the show is like good, I think they often do want to, so like Somebody Somewhere, the people who watched it really responded to that season, the final season, and they responded in kind. If you look at something like we talked about, how will, The White Lotus and more likely The Last of Us be received, because that second season of Last of Us, not everybody's fave, right? It was like kind of, people were disappointed with it, either because, I'm going to spoil this again, but you should know already, because they killed off Pedro Pascal. Katey went dark on that. She doesn't want to be a party to this. It says they killed off Pedro Pascal, and there's the direction of the season. Yeah. And so there were people who were not really responding to that season, yet again, like I said, the first season got writing and directing nominations up to, like a lot of guest actors all over the place. This season, no writing nomination for The Last of Us and no directing nominations for The Last of Us. That's a real shock. That's like just cross it off in terms of like
technical
winning.
Show.
Yeah. But if you had any illusions that it was going to actually win series, which maybe you didn't, now you could really say it's not, because it doesn't have any of those nominations, which I find pretty crazy.
I mean, not to jump too far ahead, because we're going to be able to have to talk about what's going to win for a while, but I had this confidence being like, yeah, the Pitt's going to like sneak up and going to win drama series. Like, I know everyone thinks Severance is the one, but like the Pitt is so beloved. But like that nomination total for Severance is pretty compelling.
I guess it is incredibly compelling. 27 nominations are a lot, and it got in a lot of places and a lot of actors, which means like that's a great well of support. But I would say this, like we saw literally just last year, and I think it's different. Severance versus the Pitt reminds me a lot of The Bear versus the White Lotus, The Bear versus Hacks.
Uh-huh.
And I do think that you could be like, oh, this overwhelming nominations total, and we're going to be like, even on the night, like Severance could win a bunch of awards. But maybe in the end, you're going to vote for what you love. And I know people love the Pitt, right? Like they just responded to it at a base, like emotional level. And while Severance is great, and the people who love Severance, the fans are out in force all the time, I do think it's not as beloved as the Pitt. So we'll see how that plays out. I think if it won, it wouldn't be a shock, but I could see the Pitt winning on emotion.
Yeah, and Leslie Goldberg, our colleague, commenting that, like, you know, the Pitt is so emblematic of what the streamers are trying to do right now is make shows that are more like broadcast. Like, it feels like it is the future of TV and that it is the past of TV, which is a theme we'll probably be seeing a lot over the coming years. So, like, there are a lot of people in town who want shows like that are filmed in LA, that have a ton of episodes, that don't have weird contract deals where you don't get paid the same amount. Like, there's all this business reasons for shows like the Pitt to want to thrive. And as we keep saying, the Emmys are a really LA industry group, unlike the Oscars. So like something like that could be really relevant.
Yeah. And in terms of comedy, I do think the studio probably has the advantage, right? Even though it's like, just because while Hacks has a great narrative and won last year, we'll see. I did some of those missed nominations, like Paul Downs missing, feels to me like not ideal in terms of its win potential, but we'll see.
Yeah, really interesting. I'm kind of bouncing around through categories again, because there's always some of those funny ones where you don't know where people are going to show up. Like I mentioned, Alan Tudyk nominated in character voiceover performance for K2SO. Maya Rudolph is showing up there again for Big Mouth. She cannot not get nominated. Jeffrey Wright is on What If, the Marvel show, it turns out, and is nominated for that. Stephen Yeun's nominated for something called Invincible. Don't know what that is.
Amazon show, I believe, right?
Sure.
Yes.
And Julie Andrews for Bridgerton. Character voiceover performance. Great job. Performer in a short form comedy or drama series is 3 of the nominees are for the Kevin Hart show Die Hart. That's on the Roku channel. I should watch that. I would be interested to know what that is. The reality host competition program, I guess, does not quite exactly match up with the reality series nominees because the Sharks of Shark Tank are nominated. But I think Alan Cumming's just going to win that again. Good for you, Chris and Kish. That's great. What other categories do you like singling out here?
I was trying to look for music, actually, but it's again, there's so many categories here. Let me see if I can, and then so many tabs, Katie. I have multiple Dropbox links. The pulled behind the curtain is they send a link with a bunch of links, basically, and anybody can look at this, but it's a lot of fun to see by category. And the other thing I was trying to figure out is nominations by network. I have nominations by show. And now I'm looking for network. And off the top of my head, I would say not a great day for Prime Video, Amazon, none of these above the line. I don't think it got a single nomination in drama, comedy, or limited series, even in acting. So that is like a real tough beat, I would say, for Amazon.
Prime got 4 nominations for The Boys, including that oddball guest actor nomination. Etoile got 2 nominations for choreography and cinematography for a series 1 hour. Honestly, pretty big for you, Etoile. And then one-offs for I Am Celine Dion, Invincible, Rings of Power got 1 nomination. That is a lot of money. This is what Leslie Goldberg just commented. There's a lot of money for not much.
Really tough.
Something called Octopus, exclamation mark.
That's the Phoebe, I think Phoebe Waller-Bridge voiced that. That's one of the only things that came out of her overall deal, I think, with them.
Sure. Classic. Then Pop Culture Jeopardy, our friend Jordan Hoffman, not nominated for
Jeopardy.
it.
Jordan, did Jordan get nominated? Congratulations, Jordan, if you're out there.
It would be very nice if he was the
he didn't get nominated? That's what you're saying? Okay, my bad.
And then something called Secret Level, which I also don't know what that is. So yeah, Prime for how much they're spending. And then YouTube, I think, is worth pointing out. I've written a lot. Our colleague Natalie Jarvie has written a lot about how they're trying to, really make their way into the Emmy race. They got there are 3 nominations credited to YouTube, but all are for spinoffs of existing shows: Daily Show, The Rabbit Hole of Jimmy Kimmel, and The Tonight Show during commercial break. So, still, creators are just not being welcomed into the Emmys, which I find strange, but maybe not surprising.
I was disappointed. I really liked Michelle Carey. I talked to her. I think you did probably too. And I thought it was really cool. I maybe next time. There is definitely a bias, I feel like, for those kind of shows.
I mean, I think continually these short form categories at the Emmys where you get nominations for things like, Jimmy Kimmel's like behind the scenes thing, or like, weird like web series about, or like, okay, outstanding short form nonfiction or reality series, Only Murders in the Building: Unlocking the Mystery. Like that is not a thing that is not as relevant to the world as Hot Ones or any of the other YouTube shows. So it's, at some point they're going to have to catch up and do something realistic with this.
Hopefully.
As I scroll through it, Will and Harper, an award season fave for us from Oscar season last year, rudely left off the short list for the Academy, nominated for Outstanding Documentary Nonfiction Special alongside Martha, which also I think qualified for Oscars. Sly Liz, Color, which is just really good and was always a TV movie. So that documentary category, the rule where you can submit for an Oscar, but if you don't get nominated, you can try to get an Emmy instead, is strange, but okay.
Really tough. Let me see what else. Yeah, I don't know. We'll go through this, Katie. I'm sure we'll have many other things that stand out. Interview with I'm just scrolling through. Anne Rice's Interview with a Vampire. I know people were high on that show. A lot of the fans are passionate. Just 2 nominations: hairstyling and a fantasy and sci-fi show, and makeup, non-prosthetic. So still hasn't broken through.
Interview with the Vampire just got those 2 nominations. That's it for AMC, which is not a surprise, but like AMC used to own this stuff.
Yeah. 4 seasons, only 1 nomination just for Coleman Domingo.
Wow.
No writing, no nothing else.
That is surprising.
That felt like, again, like it feels like it just was a little late. You look at like Nobody Wants This, by comparison, had 3 nominations only: lead actor, actress, and comedy series. But
yeah, I mean, it would have done well with some supporting noms or writing or something like that. But that's it's gonna have time to grow in a second season, I bet.
I think so. I'm
being reminded that Pachinko, Apple's very expensive, really good period show, was eligible this year and was nominated in 2 categories: cinematography and production design. So good morning for Apple, but they can't all be winners, I guess.
No, they can't.
Your Friends and Neighbors getting only that main title theme music nomination is a little rude. So not to keep going back to it.
We'll see how they do. I'll be curious to see how they pivot to the second season. We'll have Emmy nominee James Marsden, obviously, who was nominated for Paradise and also for Jury Duty. Yeah. So he's in the cast with John Hamm. I could see, and they're shooting it now, I could see them maybe changing the release schedule for that. And like if they put it out in January, maybe, instead of like Paradise is out in January, right? And like has a lot of run, like that's like a real sweet spot, because then you have time to get into the cultural conversation if you're good enough, and then gives people time to watch it and kind of build. Saw that with The Pitt, saw that with Paradise. These later shows, even in May, end of April, May, is really tough, I think, to get the visibility needed, even on the top platforms like Netflix.
I mean, and Paradise being what we're talking about with like streamers trying to make network shows, like that's a perfect example of it as well. I'm scrolling through some more onto FX. Did you see that Say Nothing got 1 nomination for writing and that's it?
So it's funny, it had the WGA nomination last year or earlier this year, I guess. And it was like in the Winter Awards, it was like, oh, that's interesting. And part of the reason why I thought maybe it would get in for series was because of the writers, maybe would push it through. But no, it just stuck with that 1 writing nomination. That just shows me that like the broader Academy did not watch this show, but the writers did, and they loved it.
It's just wild. Like FX had such a huge year last year, and I think nobody thought it was going to be quite the same for this time, but it is just a huge shift for them. I haven't looked at how like HBO and Netflix's numbers compared this year.
For some reason, that page is not loading for me, which is a real bummer, because I feel like that would be of real interest to our audience. But
we'll get there. There is a newsletter coming out later today that I have to write as soon as we stop yapping. So we'll get there. But yeah, HBO obviously had a ton. I mean, Dune Prophecy, snags 4 nominations somehow. Like, there's all kinds of stuff. I don't think I realized Conan O'Brien's show was an HBO show, so good for them.
Pretty good. This is a good nominations, I would say.
Yeah.
Overall.
Yeah. I feel like this, I was really rooting, I guess, for like Paradise and Andor the most deeply. I'm trying to think of I'm happy with the surprises that came in. I'm trying to think of snubs, maybe other than Sarah Polley in the studio, which I don't think she cares about at all. Like if I'm Sarah Polley, I'm like, whatever, but I cared. I'm trying to think if there's any other snubs that I'll feel angry about. Like I was really rooting for Taylor Dearden for The Pitt, who I think is so wonderful in that, but that just feels like maybe in season 2, it's going to pull a Severance and get twice as many nominations. I don't know, any snubs that are stinging you right now?
I mean, Taylor Dearden, I really thought could get in because I was going on the idea that her entire character makes you cry. Certainly, like I had that with Mackenzie Aston too, and I think Rebecca Tilney, who played the brother and sister of the man who was on Mr. Rogers and died. And I was like, oh, you're really going to tear up watching those, and that's an emotional connection. But no, didn't work. And Paul Downs is the biggest shock. I just love Paul Downs. I think he's so funny on Hacks, and the stuff he's doing on that show remains really great. And I was,
he's fine. He gets the series nomination. Did he? He gets the writing nomination too, right? I didn't look at exactly who.
He has the writing nomination, and he'll get he has the nomination for series as a co-creator.
And he literally has an Emmy in his hand, multiple Emmys in his hand for Hacks. He's doing okay.
You know
what's interesting?
Smelter.
I don't know if this is much of a snub because I think the studio took a lot of that actors playing themselves energy, but I wonder when's the last time there were no guest actor nominations for SNL. I don't know that it's happened since SNL was eligible for the guest actor in a comedy category.
You went over this. I think it was honestly 2011 maybe was the last time. Let me see. Guest actor.
Yeah.
I'm going to look.
Bowen Yang is the only performer nominated for SNL
so
this year.
So it continues to get that keeps it in the, like you said, but like I'm trying to go back. In guest actor, the last time, I believe, was 2011.
Yeah.
And that was Justin Timberlake won that year. So then you have to go back to 2010 when the nominees were Neil Patrick Harris for Glee, who won.
Yeah.
Trip down memory lane. Will Arnett and John Hamm for 30 Rock. Mike O'Malley for Glee. Eli Wallach for Nurse Jackie. And Fred Willard for Modern Family.
Man, we really had it all, didn't we?
It was a time.
Anyway, I kind of thought SNL would be really riding high off of the anniversary stuff. They got a ton of nominations, in all these technical categories, writing for variety, all this stuff. But yeah, the lack of hosts surprised me.
Yeah, honestly, much to the consternation of the internet, I assumed Dave Chappelle was going to get in again because he's gotten in previously, but he missed. And, Martin Short could have been here for a double nomination. He missed as a host. So
yeah,
we'll see.
Yeah, well, are we close to wrapping it up?
I think we could wrap it up.
You're talking and I can't hear anything. I don't know why. Okay, I think it's time to wrap it up. Should we say bye?
Sign off. So that's it.
Yeah, we're good?
Goodbye.
Okay.
See you guys later.
Bye. Well, I wanted to ask you, having been part of The Crown, if that prepared you in any way for like what this level of attention is like, because it does feel like Adolescence has just been kind of on a different level, and you guys have all been, so great about talking about it, and there's so many people who want to talk to you about it. So did you feel prepared at all for what these past few months have been?
I mean, yeah, it's a good point. I do think The Crown definitely, particularly because it was one of the first things that I was ever a part of, I think it definitely opened my eyes as to what being part of something that kind of mammoth feels like.
Yeah.
But Adolescence is a strange one because it is that, but it's also so very much like this tiny little thing, and that's what feels really kind of special and rare about it. Like, is this kind of, it's had this massive reach, but really at the time and at its core will always be this little nugget of a story. And I think what's really beautiful about that is like it really drives home that as an audience and as a collective bunch of people, we want to be told and we want to be telling these really specific raw tales, and when you do, like, I think it really hits, and so there's something really special about it.
Well, it's so personal too, right? Like I talked to Steven and Jack a little bit, and it seems really clear that they are getting people coming up to them and unburdening their souls. I imagine a lot of that's coming your way too.
Yeah, it's really, and the general kind of message is thank you, and that is so overwhelming. Like, and I don't, yeah, you never really know how to handle that, but you're just kind of like, wow, it just you get a sense that you're a part of something much bigger than yourself, which is so lovely.
Mm-hmm.
Like the word is gratitude. I just keep coming back to it. I'm just so grateful that I got to be a part of this story.
Yeah, yeah. I bet you're getting a lot of like social workers and therapists and people who do these kind of really hard, unseen jobs. You're
Yes.
representing them. You're putting them out in the
Yes.
spotlight.
Which I'm so honestly, I couldn't be happier about. Like, I'm such an advocate for therapy. I think it's one of the most, it changed my life, and I think it will continue to change people's lives. Like, it's just talking about anything is a superpower. And I think sitting down, whether it be with your family or with a therapist or whatever, like sitting and talking is one of the most incredible things that we can do and offer to each other. So yeah, the fact that I got to represent that in this story is really special as well.
Yeah, what a great point. I mean, so you talked about how you'd worked with Steven on A Thousand Blows, and I think you said it was a year-long process of making that show, or almost a year, which is, I mean, that's one kind of intense experience. Adolescence is a different one. But I'm curious about when you work with someone for that long, when you've been through that kind of, period piece, big production, like what do you learn about somebody that makes you think, all right, I'm going to trust you to go on this crazy show idea that you have to do next?
I think it speaks to everything that Stephen Graham is. He is just an anomaly in the sense that he's just the most genuine, generous human being I've ever met in my life. And he is so present and real and honest and with you. Like, you feel so safe, and you just create this bond with him so rapidly because he just is. And so the minute that he was speaking to me about this, like, it was in our last, like, it was in the last month, I think, that we had on this. So it was like around November time. And he was speaking to me about the idea of it. And I was just like, if that has come from you, Stephen, I know that's going to be so necessary. Like, he just doesn't tell stories for the sake of it. He tells them because they need to be told. And so, yeah, I didn't even read the script. I was just like, when he did call me and was like, do you want to be a part of that? I was like, yeah. I just said yeah there and then, because I just knew it was going to be, as I say, essential. And I had no idea what it was, but I just knew that I wanted to be involved.
Yeah, and you knew from the very beginning about this single take, rehearsal process. That was baked in always, right?
Yes, yeah, that's what he was talking to me about on that day on set. And I was like, I'd watched Boiling Point, and I'd loved him and for years and years, but I'd loved him and Phil together. So the idea of working with them on a project like that, I was just like, absolutely, yes, get me involved.
Well, and you've said, like, it's supposed to seem like scary and intense, and obviously it is, but as an actor, it's like, it's like skydiving or something. It's like the challenge that you want. Have you always been that kind of actor where it's like, bring it on, I want to take on the scariest thing and nail it?
I think so. Like, I think it's not a cliche that, like, people keep coming, like, I've heard so many actors say it, but it's like, do what scares you. Like, you can only, like, grow outside of your comfort zone. And I think there's something really exciting about being a part of something that you don't have the answers for, but it will figure itself out. And I think that's why particularly this show has had such a huge reach, is because it feels so dynamic and dangerous to watch, because it felt that way. So I think if you have that feeling on set, like if you chase that and if you get that on set, then you just know it's going to pierce through the screen. And I think that's why this show is so intense to watch, because it was so intense to make.
Yeah. Well, and you have the challenge of, like, not just playing this character in the single take, but when you have a scene partner who is so new to this and is so young, and there is an extent to which you have to protect your scene partner always, but especially for someone like Owen, who obviously he's an incredible actor, but like that's an interesting kind of push-pull where you have to push yourself, but also look out for him. And I wonder what that adjustment is like.
Yeah, it's such a lovely thing that you brought that up, because acting is that wonderful dance of, like, creating that safety net so you have the freedom to play, but then also having the courage to jump off the cliff and make mistakes potentially within a situation where if you make a mistake, you've messed up the one take, like, or the two takes that you've got that day. So yeah, it's navigating, as you say, that kind of the to and froing of wanting to be real and create this genuine environment of these two characters, but also going, I've got your back, without vocalizing it. And I think that was built, that kind of safety was built over the rehearsal process. So we were so lucky. We had a longer rehearsal process than we did shoot process. We rehearsed for 2 weeks and shot for 1. And I think that fed into that kind of ability for Owen and I to just lock on and to know, if you throw something at me, I've got your back and I'll give it to you, and like to just know. And you don't get that with like seasoned professionals. So the fact that we were able to create that with Owen, who had literally just like walked onto this set for the, like, this was his first job.
You guys were the first episode too, right?
Yeah. And so this was literally like his whole like initial experience of working on screen. And so the fact that he was able to just jump in and do that, like, I feel so grateful that I got to be on the receiving end from him, because he was so generous with me and likewise. And I think it was just, it was a really magic experience that we got to have together.
So my guess from having talked to a couple of you guys and getting this around Adolescence is that at the Emmys, like, it's a serious show, it breaks people's hearts, but you guys might be the fun table. It seems like you're enjoying being together maybe more than anybody.
It is going to be the biggest party of the year for us. Like, we are literally just like going out. I've heard Owen chat about it. He was like, I just want to have good food and I want to dance. Like, literally, it's just going to be the best night. And what I come back to is like, just, I'm so grateful that the whole show has been collectively recognized. And so that just feeds into what's going to be such an amazing night of just celebrations and regardless, like, genuinely regardless of what happens with winners and whatever, like, the fact that we all get to be there and to celebrate this show is everything that you can wish for.
That does it for today's episode. This podcast is edited by Brett Fuchs and produced by Brett Fuchs and me. Our theme music is by Dave Gonzalez. Thanks again to my co-host, The Ankler's own Chris Rosen. Subscribe to the Prestige Junkie newsletter at theankler.com. Subscribe to this podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And to join our exclusive members-only club for even more content, go to prestigejunkie.afterparty.substack.com and join us there. We will see you in the meantime next week.